Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to do something a little bit different. Doing a hinge tutorial because YouTube keeps showing me examples and I haven't found that they were very good, and I wanted to show what a proper parametric model could look like. And especially something like a hinge is something, if you end up drawing a hinge, there's a pretty good chance you're going to need to use a different size one at some point, so you'll want to have a model that's easy to update to create a different size of hinge, because that's something that's pretty likely to happen. So anyway, let's go over how I would do it. And this, for something like this, it makes a lot of sense to use variables. Just to make it a lot easier to edit in the future. So, and I like to create variables on the fly. So I'm going to start with this. And one trick, if you want to directly add a variable, you can just type a number, any number, and then you can start typing something. So I'm going to go pin diameter, for example, and call it, let's say 0.125. Wait, no, we're in metric. Let's say 3 millimeters. And then we can do another circle, and that will be the thickness of the metal. So same thing, I'm gonna go thickness and call that, I don't know, how about 1.5 millimeters. And then continuing with the same theme, create the leaf, and again let's give that a variable that will be the width, and we're going to use the total width, so I don't know, let's say 60, but we will use only half here. And then this can be like this. Now you could create a small break here if you wanted this to be more realistic, but I think unless you're designing a hinge, this is probably fine. So I'm going to write into an extrude, and again we're going to call that the length, and make that, I don't know, like 100. That's fine. So this is the basic part, and here I'm gonna do a hinge where both parts are the same, just to keep things simple. So you create two identical leaves and then you assemble them, so you need the same number of knuckles on each side, and they just go one way and one the other way. Anyway, so this is where it gets interesting, but you can use the variables that we created before. So the length of each knuckle, actually one new variable we need is the number of knuckles, and for this reversible part to work you need an even number on each side. And one way to do this is to define a variable that's the number of knuckles per side. One good trick is to use the variable table. If you haven't used it, it's very helpful because it lets you create and edit variables directly without even exiting your sketch, or you can even change the values, which can be really nice. But anyway, here we want we're going to create one called knuckles per leaf, and that will be a number, and let's start with 2. Then we can go, if I go in here, create a dimension. This is going to be the length divided by, I need a bracket because it's knuckles per leaf, times 2, because you need the knuckles and the spaces in between. And then I'm gonna get reference for this, make this coincident, and now we need to decide how wide to make the cutout, and I like to make it as a ratio of the pin diameter and the thickness, just so that it stays consistent if you were to make change the values. And you probably don't want it just to here, because then the hinge would only go 270 degrees, and you might want a bit more travel than that. Hinges typically go a bit more than that. So let's try the diameter over 2 plus the thickness. That gets us from the midpoint to here, and then let's add a factor, let's say 1.25, and that looks pretty good. We can always adjust it later, and that's basically all we need in this sketch. So we're gonna head and extrude that through all to remove the material. Now you've got our first cut, and now we just need to pattern that. So we're gonna do a feature pattern this cut, direction, let's use that plane. And so distance is also going to be, so same thing, it's going to be length over actually number of knuckles per leaf, I think is what we want. Yes, we have to do apply per instance, and then the instance count, that's correct, it should be knuckles per leaf. And one neat thing with the variable table is you can, while you're editing your feature, you can make sure this still works. You know, even if you were to change this to something else, you should be able to go down to 1, then you just have 2 parts. Yeah, it all looks good. So this is kind of a universal hinge model that will work for a whole bunch of different options. We're actually almost there. Then I guess we just need to create a pin, and I'm just going to reuse this. I'm going to extrude this as a new part to length, shift enter to do another extrude, and I'm going to extrude this, just say something small. Actually I want to grab the middle as well, add to the pin, and this is going to be your leaf, and this is going to be our pin. And I think I'm gonna stop it here so we can go a little bit more in depth next time. But to recap, now you've got a basic model that will let you easily change things. Let's say you wanted a heavy duty version with a big fat pin and fat material. Well, you can all do it, and it will behave properly. Whatever numbers you pick, it will update just fine. So there you go. I hope that was helpful. A little bit more work up front, but this way you get to think through the whole process of what a parametric model is, and then when you need a new hinge size, then it's really quick. Anyway, hope that was helpful, and see you next time.